All right. All right. All right. Welcome back to the show. This is The Late Show, and your host, Young Brando, is back. This is live from Los Angeles, at least for a little while yet. We're going to talk about watches. We're going to have a little bit more of a free flowing conversation today, I hope. So the link is there, and I invite all of you to come on the panel, whoever you don't necessarily have to have appeared before. So feel free to join. Feel free to talk about what's on your mind regarding watches, whatever you would like to talk about. I'm here for your questions, for um, anything watch related, really. But let's start with looking at a few interesting pieces that I've come across. I want to start with this interesting Dampin that just sold in one of the auctions um, this last weekend, the past weekend. I think this must have been, yes, it is the Christie's legendary and unique watches that I had passed over, but was really interested to dig back up because this is a very unassuming but really interesting Blancpain from mid to late 90s. And turns out it is also a pretty rare piece made actually for the Sultan of Brunei. it's it's quite a beautiful watch, I think, in its unassuming simplicity, kind of like the ultimate luxury field watch in so many ways. Very simple, large uh, Arabic numerals with those diamond shaped lozenge hands. Uh, Clearly, a design that privileges legibility and ultimately is based on Blancpain's classic Viret dress watch case as well. So something that's quite luxurious, but also utilitarian at the same time. You really have to be in the know to make sense of the logo, of the symbol at 6 o'clock. You can easily present it as some sort of uh, science fiction secret handshake or something from your favorite anime show or anything like that, but it turns out that it is actually one of the ciphers of the Sultan of Brunei, and it is largely in this darker shade of black, and the watch is presented, at least here, on a small scale alligator strap with blue contrast stitching as if to pick up that particular shade of the logo from the dial. So very minimalist, quite striking, and something that went for, again, for a relatively reasonable sum for what it is, especially considering that this is um, a rare collectible in platinum. So in so many ways, again, the one of the most luxurious and fittingly luxurious field watches that I have ever seen. Lovely presentation box that's it has this burlwood veneer on the outside. Reminds me also of some Breguet watch boxes for presentation from around the same period of time. Comes with its full papers and booklets to certify the provenance. 34 millimeters, so again, very discreet on the dressier side for that reason. In platinum with the matching platinum buckle, so quite interesting. This highly attractive platinum watch is most unusual in Blancpain's production, featuring a black dial with luminous Arabic numerals. It was made in a limited edition of 24 pieces as a special order for Brunei. They really look, yeah, this watch really looks like one of those field watches. You know, sometimes people refer to the dirty dozen, you know, those war era field watches that were produced by a dozen different brands. So it has that kind of vibe, but executed, of course, in a much more luxurious manner, and still at a relatively accessible price. This was 2037 in the legendary and unique watches auction by Christie's. Which is again going back to the story of this particular curation, knowing that this was the Ferrari principal, Scuderia Ferrari principal Jean Todt's personal collection. That was a watch that once belonged to him, and it was so unassuming that uh, I have passed over it so many times when I was looking at this particular um, auction, but it is a very interesting piece indeed, and somehow ended in Jean Todt's hands, and now is probably with its new owner already. Bruce G, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Bruce G, 499. Good day, Lord. Shout out to the vets that have sacrificed all for the rest of us. Yes, sir. It is the Veterans Day today in the US, the day where we remember, along with Memorial Day, of course, all those who have given it all for us to have a life here. As they say, the land of the free because of the brave. This is our motto for today. And Corrado, thanks for dropping by and saying hi. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Bruce. So somehow it was appropriate to open the show with this field watch that is rather unassuming in its appearance, but was actually quite a highlight of this auction. Perhaps again one of the more affordable, one of the less spendy watches that were sold on this auction that realized, I think, a total of $32 million, of course, almost 31,877,418 in Swiss francs. So that was a watch that went for 75,000, which is relatively 7,500, I should say, which is relatively affordable compared to everything else that's sold as part of Jean Todt's personal collection. There are a few more interesting pieces that I wanted to talk about that were just listed by In Eichen. As you know, In Eichen is one of my personal favorites, based in Zurich. Very, very storied and respected auction house for watches. They have been in the business since early 70s. In this case, they basically have been trying to disrupt the market a little bit by putting together a few interesting watches focused around very specific themes in small curations with timed auctions that don't necessarily require you to be in Switzerland or in the auction house raising your paddle, which might be really appealing to some. So they have basically three auctions that are ongoing now. One are simply timed auctions where they have 8 watches that already have a fixed price in live timed auctions that go on for about 10 days. The first 4 are about to close in 2 days, so let's look at them now, and then the rest of them are closing in about 8, I think, or 9 days, in fact. The first one is Gégé Lecoutre Master World Time, which is really more like a dual time watch, but still quite a nice and aesthetically pleasing expression or implementation of the function. You have your secondary time zone as well as a day and night indicator here at 6 o'clock. You have a pointer date at 2 o'clock, and you also have a little opening here at the lower half of the watch where you can set the local time to so to point to Azores, for example, which is the local time here, and the home time you can set separately in that dial. Quite a nice watch. This kind of double crown aesthetic that is quite pleasing in its unbalanced expression. I like these JLC watches. I like a lot of JLC watches, honestly, but the Master World Time is certainly one of my personal favorites. This one started at 5,000 Swiss francs. The current bid is 8,500, and I think they also have a fixed price, I think, unless it's already been achieved. No, the fixed price is 10,000. So no one has bid that. You can immediately buy it at 10. And the interesting thing is a lot of these timed auctions have no buyer's premium. So they are simply working on the commission that they get from the person who consigns the watch. So they're truly trying to do something different and gain some extra exposure. And I really appreciate that. I appreciate everyone who brings something new to the table. So by all means, I will give more exposure to In Eichen to no particular benefit of my own, but I do like their method. This is lot 25, JLC Master World Time in pink gold. They have a beautiful Patek Philippe chronograph at lot 26. The starting price was 40,000 francs. The fixed price is 80,000 Swiss francs. The bids are in 2,000 Swiss franc increments. The current bid is at 66. Again, no buyer's premium. What we have here is a 50/70. So one of the last few examples of a Patek Philippe chronograph with the CH27 Nouvelle Lemania base. It's a little strange, the archival extract or certificate origin, rather, because it says or gris which should be white gold, but I'm pretty sure that what we have here is a rose gold watch. This should be an 5070R. Perhaps the watch they pictured and the documents they have pictured don't necessarily match. I don't know. Let's see if there is in this auction another Patek chronograph that is actually in um, in white gold. I think there is. Yeah, maybe they mixed it with this one, because this is also a 50. Oh man, no, this is a 5170G. So they have botched that. My apologies. It seems that they are presenting here a 5070R, but some parts of their own information, as well as the certificate of origin they present, doesn't match the watch that they have pictured, because it also says that it is a black dial with Arabic numerals in silver, I guess, rhodium plated um, gold, but interesting. I don't know why they would make a rookie mistake like that, but then again, what do I know? But this is lot 2060, what looks like a 5070R to my eyes, that has a fixed price of 80,000 Swiss francs. The current bid stands at 66,000 with 2 days left on the clock. They have a very interesting IWC minute repeater that looks in that traditional oversized Portuguese case, the Portuguese case. Very plain, again, very legible, with running seconds at 9 o'clock. Classical aesthetics of very beautiful and plain, simplistic, beautiful dress watch in platinum, in this case, with a sapphire case back that exhibits a wonderful movement of a chiming watch. And this had a fixed price of 50,000, started at 25, and the current bid stands at 34,000. Yeah, some of these Portugueses have really beautiful movements. Very simple, um, but in terms of their architecture, quite striking for that. And this is a limited edition of one of 50 pieces. Very pleasing, very interesting. Lot 27. The current bid stands at 34,000 Swiss francs with 2 days left on the clock. Next up, we have Daniel Roth Retrograde Tourbillon. You have the retrograde date right here in the middle. The fixed price was 45,000 Swiss francs. Starting bid was 20, and The bidding now stands at 34,000. Very beautiful. That double ellipsis, ellipsocurvex dial design, running seconds also at 6 o'clock on the tourbillon cage, retrograde date right in the middle. Stunning watch. And it is also, again, very nicely exhibited in the back as well, with the power reserve planted there on the bridge plate of the movement. It's a white gold case with the matching tank buckle, and seems to be in a very good condition, where all the contours of the case are pretty clear and crisp. Again, the bidding stands at 34,000 Swiss francs for lot 28. IWC, I'm a little conflicted, honestly. I like IWC. There's a lot I like about IWC. I don't quite like the fact that nowadays the brand's identity is really wrapped up in big pilot watches still. That always makes me feel a little queasy, but that's really a personal sentiment. You know, I wouldn't let that take away from anyone else's enjoyment of the brand, because there's so much out there. I don't necessarily have to get something from IWC. um, Once every so often I would see a watch they release that has something interesting or something special about it, and I would get intrigued. Maybe I will get close enough to buy it, but there's always something that keeps me from getting it. The last time I came close, it was about that Petronas limited edition of the Pilot's Chrono 41 with the petrol green, or the Petronas green colors. Very interesting watch, cool colors. Ultimately, of course, um, IWC's own take of the Vajra 7750 still inside it. So a pretty generic but workhorse type um, automatic chronograph caliber. They make decent watches, I think. Sometimes I feel they can be overpriced, but I get very intrigued by their experimentation with materials. I like what they do with ceramic cases. I like what they do with what they call ceratanium, the mix of ceramic and titanium. All these different colored ceramic cases they have done with names that somehow harken to, different settings for pilots training programs in the US as well. I do appreciate that, um, but ultimately it's really not for me. But I think IWC is one of those brands, along with Breitling, that somehow have a bad rep, um, and it's not necessarily fair, right? We in the watch community, sometimes we know a few things, and knowing a little bit of something, I feel, is sometimes more dangerous than not knowing anything at all. So people have memorized things like, Rolex good, IWC bad, um, Audemars Piguet good, Vacheron Constantin bad, uh, A. Lange und Söhne good, uh, let's say Nomos bad. I don't know. People have somehow made these easy, facile conclusions, usually based on someone else's opinion, without examining the watches themselves, without really bothering to study them themselves. I think that would be my suggestion. Don't let anything hold you back. Go out there, try them out in their own boutiques, in their own authorized dealers, in on the secondary market. You'll find, I mean, IWCs are a dime a dozen. I'm sure you'll find one that strikes your fancy. Actually put them on. Look at the dial under the loop, look at the case, look at the movements, and see if there is something about that watch that speaks to you. I think that's what I would say. We have a 5170, which in a way is a dressier take of what Patek has in the lineup today with 5172. This is a 5170G, which actually is a very beautiful chronograph with a black dial and Breguet numerals that actually match the white gold case. Very simple two-register layout on the dial, very plain and nicely contrasting piece. This is, of course, the first generation of Patek chronograph with a hand-wound movement, the CH29, specifically the CH29535 PS, PS standing for Petite Seconde, of course, the small seconds at 9 o'clock. And this piece started at 35,000, with the current bid standing at 55,000, with most of the time still left on the clock, about 9 days. And as far as I can see from here, the fixed price of lot 29 is 70,000 Swiss francs. You have by Vacheron Constantin overseas perpetual calendar in white gold. A very beautiful watch, I think, that makes great use of the new overseas, third generation overseas case with the integrated bracelet that's made up of half Maltese crosses. Of course, you have that full gold rotor still in the back that's sandblasted as well. Kind of a compass like design that harkens to the traveling and adventurous inspiration of the model. I appreciate it, and I think they are taking the right path in a way in making the overseas their Royal Oak, right? Complicated Royal Oaks are in so many cases just as popular, if not more popular than time and date simple executions of the Royal Oak, even though my personal preference goes towards time and date, time only, even the purest version of it, which is the jumbo extra thin, of course. But in this case, I think overseas line, in the way it has expanded, has provided quite a bit to the end user. I think my favorite still has to be that first generation of white gold ultra thin they had. I don't know if anyone remembers those, but if you can still snap these up in the secondary markets, my God, they're really really a delight. I will try to find what I'm talking about because I'm not sure if they have it in their lineup at this point, at least not in that particular execution. Because I think they have by now a few dozens of different um, iterations of the overseas. Um, but this was probably one of the first couple they had released. Ah, there we go. And there are a few things about it that I think put people off at first. And of course, as it usually happens with these sorts of watches, all those things that put people off and that made them not buy this watch makes it now even more rare and perhaps more desirable because it's rare. What I really like about this watch is just the absolute balance of the dial that is uninterrupted by a date window, the almost monochromatic look that is given a dash of blue with the uh, seconds on the chapter ring, and the absolutely thin case, which is really a delight and which beats with, uh, you're not going to be surprised to find out, with the Jaeger-LeCoultre caliber 926's Vacheron Constantin version, which is caliber 1120. So this particular watch, which I think has been discontinued now for quite some time, would be my absolute favorite of the entire overseas third generation lineup. I would recommend it to anyone who somehow finds a taste for it, whether it is the no date expression or the fact that it has the JLC 920 based caliber. Um, this is Vacheron Constantin Overseas Ultra Thin Reference 2000 V slash 120G B12. You can simply find it by looking for Vacheron Constantin Overseas Ultra Thin with caliber 1120. Of course, still uh, the JLC 920 base, which is the beating heart of the original Patek Philippe Nautilus reference of 3700, and which was until this year the beating heart of all Royal Oak extra thin jumbo references up until this year's 50th anniversary, 16202. Amazing piece, white gold, gray sunburst dial with some blue accents. Again, I love the absence of um, seconds hand, which is very, very 70s and very much part and parcel of that JLC 920 legacy. And I also love, of course, the ultimate luxury of white metal in this kind of precious execution. Beautiful, beautiful piece. But since they don't have it anymore, why not go with something that's absolutely more functional, that has what proved to be more desirable in terms of the dial color, which is their kind of deep, inky blue. And of course, the perpetual calendar with the moon phase at 6 o'clock. And the leap year indicator, of course, at 12. Amazing piece. Started at 70,000. The current bid, with 9 days left on the clock, is 76,000 Swiss francs. And the fixed price, if you would like to jump on it for whatever reason, is 160,000 Swiss francs. Lot 31, which is an Omega Speedmaster. We can bring it up, Corrado, in a second. The Mark 20 is a nice watch. It is really a nice watch. I think as an everyday wearer, it can have a lot of appeal for many. This is a Speedmaster that I really like. That would be better if it didn't have a date window at 6 o'clock. All right, I'm gonna stop now. No mention of date windows until the end of the episode. I promise. This is lot 31, which stands right now at 4,200. Black ceramic case, a black matte ceramic dial. So speaking of that sort of material experimentation that I gave a lot of credits for in the case of IWC, I would do the same here. I know when one says Speedmaster, we like thinking about the Moonwatch, pure and simple, whether it is with the Hesalite crystal or the so-called sapphire sandwich, sapphire on the front, sapphire for the exhibition case back. That's what we are yearning for. But when they do something else and something special, I think there's something to be appreciated. I like this all black aesthetic of the case and how those creamy loom plots stand against the dial, and of course the tachymeter bezel, the engraved tachymeter bezel is also filled in with a similar shade. In fact, even the Omega logo on the crown has the same detail, same aesthetic. So very, very coherent. One thing I usually can't stand is when these sorts of ceramic cases are combined with, let's say, steel pushers or titanium cases with steel pushers, which you can see in 90s IWCs. I like the fact that this is a very coherent piece. This is a very cohesive piece, and down to its folding clasp, it comes with down to its folding clasp, it comes with that sort of cohesion. Of course, this is a 44 millimeter piece. Quite mint, comes with box and papers, and started at 4,000. The bidding now stands at 42,000 with 9 days left on the clock. And the fixed price for this piece is actually why doesn't it go back? All right, 8,000. And then we have 5711R. That's still extremely popular. In many ways, just as desirable as 5711A. Perhaps doesn't have as much of a premium, but still goes for um, six figures and more. The current bid stands at 110, started at 100 with 9 days left. I don't need to do much of an introduction. It runs on the same workhorse self-winding caliber 324, which I think is a little bit of a letdown when it comes to Patek. I would have loved to see, at least on the new generation 5811, which just came out in white gold, something more inventive, something more uh, decorative, perhaps something more exciting. But Patek seems to have entered its Rolexified era where they don't have to bother doing anything at all, certainly nothing inventive with their watches, since they sell like hotcakes already. So why try? Why make the effort? This is 5711 1R dash 001, the pink gold Patek Philippe Nautilus on the full matching integrated pink gold bracelet with the chocolate brown gradient dial. The bidding stands at 110,000 with 9 days left on the clock. This is in Eichen, Zurich, timed auctions. Very nice, very uh, interruptive method that they have introduced to the global auction circuits. For these timed auctions, they don't ask for a buyer's premium. So it's always interesting to check on them time to time and see if there is anything that would interest you, that would call your name. Corrado asked for IWC Mark 20 blue in 40 millimeters. I think this is a watch that they just released with some new variants, right? And kind of silently introduced with their new in-house caliber. Um, we were just looking at that field watch, right? Blancpain mid 90s in the Viere case. I think I like this expression as well. This is a little flashier, of course, a little more, um, perhaps a little more out there, a little more expressive, a little more beautiful in a certain sense, in with its sunburst blue dial, matching strap with contrast stitching. Uh, but it is a kind of watch that privileges legibility above all. Of course, in this case, I don't think the numbers themselves are luminous. There is also the date at 3 o'clock. This is a very nice watch. For the everyday, I think it's quite a treat, and it's very utilitarian. Uh, Doesn't necessarily break the bank at even the list price, but I'm sure can be acquired at the secondary markets if you're patient enough in the first few months of 2023 at uh, a relative discount as well. I don't know if you have already bought the watch. If you have, wear it in good health. You don't have to worry about what I just said. Um, if it pleases you, if it was in your budget, I think with the way that the prices have risen in terms of list prices, uh, it's what these kinds of watches sell for these days, right? Everyone, all the brands have started pricing, marketing themselves upwards inevitably. And if there's one brand that's really invested in itself in the 80s and 90s, um, and had even another moment after the passing of Günther Blümlein with Josh Kahn at the helm as well, if any brand has been on an upward trend for quite some time, that's IWC. Um, I like a lot of the things that they have done in the 80s in terms of perpetual calendar chronographs, in terms of rattrapante, split second, or double chronographs they have. I have a lot of fondness for the brand. I have a lot of aspects of the brand that I can't suffer, but that's my personal neurosis. It need not interest you. This is a nice watch, Mark 20 pilots in 40 millimeter, great everyday wearer that has that pilot watch heritage, but really, I think in this dimension, it's more akin to a field watch than anything else, and I do like the aesthetic. And Corrado says, I already got it, and I was able to get a small discount at NAD. Good, good for you, man. Wear it in good health. This is a very nice watch. It is a nice watch. I like it. Great everyday wear. So, since we were looking at in Eichen, I wanted to continue with some pieces that they have also listed under contemporary independence. In December, they have another auction coming up in the same cast that focus on complications, especially uh, calendar watches. That will be a live auction in Zurich in on December 3rd. There's a timed auction, however, that is going on now. Pardon me, focusing on contemporary independence. And this is an auction, once again, that has no buyer's premium, right? And you see there's a healthy stock of De Bethune watches, a gorgeous Urban Jürgensen there in blue, the new special edition Parmigiano Fleurier uh, Revolution magazine Serenissima with uh, the micro rotor movement and the Salmon dial as well, uh, and uh, four lovely Laurent Ferrier watches, as well as an Uhrwerk. So let's start with the Uhrwerk, actually, which kind of looks like the odd man out. Let's help the guy a little bit. This is UR or UR105. Of course, Uhrwerk is a little bit of a pun in German. If you know a little bit of German, you will probably hear it. Ur usually is a prefix that is pretty much like pre, right? And in a way, has this echo of the primordial, of the original, right? Like the word, for example, the word for the primitive man uh, in German would be Urmensch, right? The caveman would be Urmensch, the primitive man, the original man, the primeval man. The Uhrwerk would be something like um, the primary work, but also since Ur, spelled U-H-R in this case, simply means watch or clock, you have both an echo of clock work, um, and also originary work in the same word Uhrwerk. So Uhrwerk Ur 105 started at 25,000 with 7 days left on the bidding clock. It's now standing at 37,000 Swiss francs. It has this unique expression of the time. And comes with contrasting crocodile band in this sports car yellow as well. This features hand-wound caliber, a limited edition of 77 pieces, so one of 77. The case itself is in black titanium with a kind of silver gray bezel. The strap is apparently original to the watch, which is in very good condition. And uses the brand's signature wandering hours complication. And has a power reserve indicator on the back as well. The watch has a base caliber that is ETA Peseux 7001 that is supplied by them to them by La Joux-Perret in a reworked version, as the lot essay explains. A very unique watch, something that I don't necessarily feel for, but certainly along with MBNF, Uhrwerk had quite has a quite a following by now. So one needs to recognize them, one needs to appreciate them, and it's no wonder that one of the lots in this contemporary independence auction is an Ur 105 by Uhrwerk, and the bidding is right now at 37,000 with 7 days left on the clock. That's true. That's true. That's very true, Christian. Like it could be like saying the essence of something, right? The very thing. Um, what is a word like that we can mm, that is an example of that emphatic, because you can speak of Ursprache, for example, which is like an originary version or like a proto version of a language. You can speak of an Urtext, which is like a source text, or maybe that's a good expression, right? In the sense that a philologist might follow his way back to an urtext based on different kinds of editions, and that original would be the text, urtext. So that's a good way of putting it. So Urwerk has a similar kind of expression. Oh man, Mike David, how are you, man? Nice to see you, man. It's great. Laurent Ferrier has this beautiful square-like design. I find it like a very refined and contemporary version of the original Rolex Oyster case, which finds one of its expressions, of course, in early Officine Panerai as well. Um, this is a beautiful, beautiful piece. In the square case version, I really like Laurent Ferrier's. They have this brushed grain dials that really fit the refined expression of these watches. Um, I've never been too fond of these spare like hands, but in either case, overall, I think the watch is really beautiful. And once again, I quite like the micro rotor movement and the kind of finish that really elevates the watch to another level. Certainly well deserving of being a part of a contemporary curation of independence of high horological watchmakers. Laurent Ferrier himself, having spent decades as a designer in Patek Philippe, certainly has an eye for horological expression, and he was also third place with his current partner in that legendary Le Mans race, where Paul Newman and his team placed second. So great legacy both in horology and in sporting competitions. Laurent Ferrier now has an entire brand with his name on the dial. My favorites are really the square shaped versions. At the beginning of the market crash, by the way, there were a few Laurent Ferriers that sold for much less than this. I would say even less than the starting price. So we will see. We'll see how the market turns, or if it returns to that. But right now, you have a square micro rotor in that brushed blue grain dial. started at 25,000. The current bid is 32,000, and that is lot 09, lot number 9. Exactly. It's a nice play on words. Uhrwerk, meaning movement. Uhrwerk, the movement, or like the first or the final, or the originary movement, right? You know, the kind of, I don't want to seem too Aristotelian in my thinking, but kind of like a prime mover, right? Almost like a divine touch, as it were. So that is number 9, the Galet micro rotor blue. The classic origin is great too. The crosshair aesthetic of the dial and the kind of railway or rail track chapter ring is quite nice too. A 24-hour expression also added there on that railroad track on the chapter ring. The same hands, the same expression of a two-hander with small seconds at 6 o'clock, crosshair in the middle that divides the dial into even 4 pieces. This is a watch that started at 20,000 and the bidding stands with a week to go at 24,000 Swiss francs. One of the nice things about Laurent Ferrier, and one of the original things, right? They're not the first to do it by any measure, but just like de Bethune, they almost use it across the board. They focus on grade 5 titanium in usually this sort of high polished finish that makes the most of it as a luxury material for watches. In this case, the round cases have a hand wound movement. Again, very simple in its expression, but simple does not have to mean unfinished. In this case, I think the anglage really gives a great contrast to the visuals in the back. Again, I love that onion crown that is both utilitarian and a kind of quasi-antiquated touch. Laurent Ferrier, again, in this classic origin blue as well, is very compelling. I do prefer the square cases with the micro rotor calibers, but in this case, certainly lot 10 is quite nice as well. Stands at 24,000 with a week left on the clock. We have another classic origin, this time in green. And as you know, green is the new blue in the world of watches and in the world of dial colors, certainly. In this case, the main finish of the dial has this granular texture, and it has accents that are in lime green, let's say, and I think it's a nice, playful touch. Both of the blue dials, I think, were much more elegant and, in a way, classical, even if blue is a somewhat sporty connotation, even if blue has somewhat of a sporty connotation. In this case, I think green, they have really distinguished it to make it a little more playful than the average piece. And I think it really plays well with that old school vintage style saddle stitch leather strap as well. beautiful watches. I think, again, I feel like there are better deals to come when it comes to brands like Laurent Ferrier. I know their sports watch, which is not very attractive to me, but by all means, don't let that hold you back, is quite popular and will remain popular for quite some time. But if you're interested in these dress pieces, I would highly advise you stand back, remain patient, and continue learning more about the brand, asking the right questions, examining some examples in person, perhaps, and finding out if they're for you. Because I think soon enough there will be more examples and better deals on the secondary market when it comes to Laurent Ferrier and similar contemporary independents. Next up, at lot 12, we have yet another classic Origin in their white opaline dial. I kind of like it. I think this is the one that is probably the most legible among all the Laurent Ferrier watches that we have looked at today, that we have examined. Uh, Black against white, you really can't beat it. I do like the crosshair design when it comes to their round shaped cases. It gives a sense of balance to the dial, and the red accents for the 24-hour indication is great as well. Seconds on the sub dial at 6. Again, a very simple, elegant, and beautiful contemporary dress watch with a hand wound movement, a very thin and discreet case in grade 5 high polished titanium. Beautiful piece. Started at 20,000 Swiss francs. Right now, the bidding stands at 23,000, and there is about a week left on the clock. Christian Frech says, I know your crystal ball is at service. Yeah, I'm in the process of moving. It's actually in storage, Christian, but thank you. What's your opinion on who could become the next FP Journe over the next 10 years? That's a very difficult question, isn't it? Christian, I would like to hear your opinion as well, because I know you are really educated when it comes to these kind of intricacies. I think there are a few brands that I would want to highlight. First of all, again, I'm not a fanboy of FP Journe, but I feel like, he has done a combination of things that really puts him ahead of the pack and makes him very special. Uh, we will never know, of course, it's too early to say, but in many ways, when you remember the 19th century from our current standpoint, you associate it with Breguet. Not that there weren't other great watchmakers, but that's the proper name that has stuck, that has arrived in our day with the highest number of inventions that are still in use, and certain elements of aesthetic expression that we came to identify with high horology. In the 20th century, we have George Daniels, right? Again, in the same way, who in his way inherited from Breguet and carried that legacy forward, both in pocket watches and wristwatches. And even his two books, The Art of Breguet and Watchmaking, has inspired generations of watchmakers that include, of course, Roger Smith and François Paul Journe. So François Paul Journe, first of all, I think has a very striking and distinct design language that sets him apart from everyone else, who even as he does that, brings certain innovations into pocket watch form where they were into the wristwatch form where they were not in serial production before. I think before, Jean put them into wristwatches, the resonance phenomenon I don't think existed in serial production. I don't think people were really dabbling with constant force mechanisms. And now it started, constant force mechanism now became the tourbillon of the early 2000s. Now that's what you have to introduce to really make your mark as a high horological independent manufacturer. Now, this whole digression aside, I think the next FP Journe will be probably a brand like MBNF rather than any of the other independent makers. Of course, there are many interesting brands when it comes to that particular level of independent watchmaker that also has a broader appeal. Right before I forget, of course, what distinguishes FP Journe among independents is the increased volume now, and that plays with the increased attention and demand for his watches. He's now backed by capital. Chanel has significant stake in his operation, so that puts him at a different category. Now, I think Kari Voutilainen is making the same kind of jump. You might always say he had his own niche anyways. In many ways he's a contemporary of Jean rather than a newcomer, but I think with his revival of Urban Jürgensen, he is one of those names. Recep Recepi, of course. um, I think in many ways, again, he might exist even at a higher and more selective and more rare segment. But I think he's a proper name that we will have to content with for some time to come. I really love anything and everything that Carl Friedrich Schäufele does with Chopard and especially Berthoud. But again, that's very much a niche. I don't think it will ever have the broad appeal, especially Berthoud, that FP Journe has, that I expect Voutilainen to have, and even Recep Recepi to enjoy at some extent. Um, I think with these, with the steps that they have been taking, with, for example, the MAD editions that offer a kind of accessible version of their products, these MBNF laboratories that they are opening now in certain parts of Southeast Asia, and soon enough, apparently in Beverly Hills as well. MBNF will be the next one because I think they offer something that's visually quite different, horologically innovative, and still in a way recognizable, at least in terms of their legacy machines from the standpoint of traditional horology as well. So I think that's my guess. MBNF. With Voutilainen and Recep Recepi as perhaps more niche players who might then step onto a broader, if not necessarily mainstream, appeal. And I think Alan Gonzone is not the next FP Journe, but maybe the next Lange, next Patek Philippe. But that's not, you don't need crystal ball to tell you that. The way that the financial value of these watches have been coming up leaps and bounds on the secondary market, I think tells the entire story when it comes to Lange. So lot 12, the classic origin with the opaline dial, great contrast of white and black, with a week left on the clock. The current bid stands at 23,000 for the Laurent Ferrier. Speaking of Kari Voutilainen, we actually have at lot 7 a beautiful Urban Jurgensen watch. Um, you will recognize, of course, from the aesthetics of this watch, what uh, Voutilainen took for his own brand as well. After all, he came of age in a way in Urban Jurgensen through his collaborations with Derek Pratt. And Urban Jurgensen, in his own way, is like a postmodern Breguet in terms of the design language. Of course, the Breguet numerals are there for you to see on a frosted track. The various expressions of guillochage, one kind of pyramidal pattern at the center of the dial, a basket weave decoration for the subsidiary seconds, and the distinctive observatory hands, kind of stylized take on the traditional dress watch aesthetic, with those lugs especially that resemble teardrops. A very beautiful piece, one of 30. The anglage seems very nice and inviting, and the striping on the bridge plates have this kind of beautiful little exhausted today, guys. So sorry for um, my lack of expression, but the bridge, the decoration, the striping on the bridge plates kind of has this hand fan look that I really like. Of course, this is hand wound caliber in a platinum case with a matching platinum clasp. Lovely blue dial again that has the engine turns decorations in two different patterns, the guillochage and I want to see, yes, thanks to that double barrel hand wound movement with the Jurgensen P4 caliber, the movement has a power reserve of up to 72 hours, which is quite nice. The dimensions of the watch are quite modern, but still wearable, 40 millimeters in diameter and 10.5 millimeter thick. Starting price was 30,000 Swiss francs for lot 7. And the bidding right now stands at 40,000 with about a week left on the clock. I'm very interested to see how Kari Voutilainen will revive Urban Jurgensen in the years to come. But I think that will be a way for him also to reach different kinds of audiences. I know he collaborates with other brands already, like Schwarz Etienne. I know that he also has basically built his own ecosystem in Motier. He has his case maker, he has his dial maker, he has his team of watchmakers. So I think it may well be Kari Voutilainen, the next F.P. Journe, although again, in many ways, he's a contemporary of F.P. Journe rather than a successor to him, but maybe he is the next one to come. This is a watch that I really enjoyed. You all know that I'm a big fan of the Tonda PF. I love that coin edge decoration on the platinum bezel they set against stainless steel. I love the Grain d'Orge barley corn guilloche decorated dial. Probably the only watch where I don't feel myself put off by skeletonized hands. And I like the new medallion PF logo that they have increasingly used. The bracelet is very nice to wear. I like actually the dimensions of the watch at 40 millimeter, but as you probably know, they have just released a 36 millimeter version of the watch. That's in one way marketed towards women, but I think is pretty unisex. I really like the micro rotor movement, but the full rotor self-binding movement actually adds some extra value in terms of an extended power reserve. First of all, here you have a custom rotor weight with Revolution, of course, since this is a limited edition that was made in collaboration with the Revolution magazine. And it comes with this special salmon dial color, which I'm sure is much more dimensional and captivating than what the photographs can capture here. I would love to see at least one of these in person, hopefully soon enough. This is the Tonda PF Serenissima limited edition by Parmigiani Fleurier and the Revolution magazine. At lot 8, the starting bid was 25,000 and the current bid stands at 40,000 with about a week left on the clock. Bruce G, that's I feel you, man. I've still not spent more than 12 and a half, $13,000 on a single watch, and that was already stretching it for me. So I don't really know. But I think that day will come soon enough. I just need to both mentally and financially prepare myself for it. Christian Frech says, good assessment for the next big independent to break. I think in the same direction, something more avant-garde like MBNF or Uhrwerk. That's how the question came at first place. I completely understand. Akrivia is awesome, but needs a little more time, maybe. Yeah, look, that's why I was a little more shy about Akrivia / Recep Recepi, because we are talking about a brand that used to make about 24 watches a year. I think they have maybe hired a few more watchmakers and now what, make 40 watches a year? That can't be the next FP Jean, right? That can be something in a way more precious. But FP Jean makes, I think by now, almost 1,000 watches per year, if not a little more. So you clearly can't become the next FP Jean by making 40 watches a year. Not that anyone should aspire to that, aim to that. I don't think FP Jean himself, even though he's a very self-confident and authentic man, I don't think he started to become an FP Jean in the first place. He wanted to become a good watchmaker. He wanted to make a tourbillon watch for himself because he couldn't afford one. He couldn't buy one with his own money, and the rest is history. And in a way, I think, like you said, something that is more on the avant-garde, like MBNF, like Urwerk, um, or maybe something that's about to expand from being a boutique brand, like Kari Voutilainen can be more open to that kind of development, which is what you are saying as well. Voutilainen and Grebel Forcé can be also candidates, but who knows? Grebel Forcé, I think, again, it's a great brand, very audacious horologically, but I think, I don't know. I feel like there's something off to my eyes with their aesthetic. It might be just me. I was never, it never clicked for me. Let's put it this way. It never clicked for me when it comes to Grebel Forcé. We have 6 very lovely de Bethunes in this contemporary independent selection. I think this may well be my absolute favorite because it's a watch that perhaps differs so much from what has become established as the distinctive de Bethune aesthetic. This is a DB10, again, very large painted Arabic numerals, a kind of a rosette kind of guilloche decoration that emanates from the center of the dial. The outer ring of the dial has another kind of guilloche decoration, and at the center of the dial we have a pointer date. Otherwise, this is a 300 watch with centrally deployed sweeping seconds. A yellow gold case with these stylized lugs that kind of swoop upwards in a way, very different and inviting. It's a silver plated dial, decorated by guillochage, by index turning, engine turning. I don't know why I said index turning. In the middle, you have a pointer date with a pink gold hand, blued hands for all 3, rhodium plated silver movement with a skeletonized rotor. And this was apparently a re-release of some of their early models from 2003. In 2011, they actually released the DB10 Réédition Spéciale, which was a re-release of those cases with these distinctive lugs. It was offered in 3 versions. The present reference, he says, in pink gold, limited edition of 20, in white gold, another 20 pieces, and a platinum model in 10 pieces. So this piece basically is one of 20. I think it's really beautiful with that distinctive lug shape, the pink gold case, in its contrast with the silver dial that has 2 different types of engine turning decoration, and of course the blue accents that include the heat blued hands as well. It's really a beautiful piece. With more than 7 days left on the clock, the bidding stands at 29,000 for now. In the meantime, let me take a quick break I want to get some water. I'll be right back. Thank you for your patience. I will go to lot two in the meantime, which is a more contemporary uh, de Béthune piece with those scalloped lugs. I'll be right back. Bruce, this is a reality check, by the way. In many ways, I mean, 40,000 is, in many parts of this country, that can be a nice down payment on a decent house. It can easily get you your daily driver car. It's a lot of money on a time to spend on a timepiece, to spend on a mechanical watch. So I completely understand. And I know we are, in many ways, looking at these sorts of aspirational pieces. Um, but I keep saying, that's a watch that, of course, I had the good fortune of inheriting, basically from my father. But I think, this no date Submariner 5513, you can easily find one on the secondary market today, somewhere between 12 to 15K, depending on the condition, depending on um, the details, whether it has the original dial, whether it's meters first, or mark this or mark that. I'm not going to bore you with the details. We can geek out about so many things when it comes to vintage Rolex collecting. Um, but certainly, anywhere from $500 to $500,000, there's so much in the world of watches that can entertain us, that can make us happy, and that can help us start different kinds of conversations. So I really, um, I completely agree with your approach of keeping it real. Since this is YouTube, and as much as I stand by my principles, we can continue dreaming for a little longer. And this is De Béthune DB25, which is a different aesthetic that has become more integral to the design language of the brand in the recent years. Those hollowed out, scalloped lugs, especially. But once again, you can see how distinctive that skeletonized rotor still remains, and the three-quarter bridge plates. Remember again, we are perhaps still talking about the the legacy of FP Jean in a way, because the founder of this brand, the founder of the Béthune, was actually partner with FP Jean, François Paul Jean, and Vianney Alter as well in a workshop they called Technique horlogère appliquée, applied horological techniques. Let's translate it quickly, where they devised and manufactured movements together. Some, for example, for Cartier Paris, right? Most famously, perhaps, Denis Flageolet and François Paul Jean collaborated in designing the modern version of the monopusher chronograph movement for the Cartier Tortue. That was caliber 045 MC. So this DB25 in a pink gold case with those pierced lugs, sapphire case back, matching, of course, pink gold buckle on a black alligator strap, in very good condition. Had a starting bid of 25,000, and the bidding stands with a week to go at 37,000 Swiss francs. At lot number 3, oh, by the way, I wanted to point that out. This is, of course, at 12 o'clock, the power reserve indicator, which is a very nice and natural way of expressing that. And in many ways, again, the Béthune, both in terms of the application of decorative techniques, um, a certain iteration of the aesthetics when it comes to the hands, especially, is one of those brands that is trying to harken back to the styling of Breguet pocket watches, and then also the revival of Breguet by such greats as Daniel Roth and also Michel Parmigiani under the patronage of the Chaumet brothers as well, right? The hands, for example, you can practically think of them as a modern version, a modern expression of the Breguet hands, or the pomme hands that are otherwise more generically called, because they look like apples at the end. Lot 3 has, of course, a beautiful moon phase at 12 o'clock. That's why it's called DB25L, L for lune, of course, moon. Lot 3 started at 35,000. Another rose gold mounted on a black alligator strap, matching pin buckle. The movement in this case is a hand wound movement, and has that sort of design to it that reminds me very much of Star Trek more than anything. But in either case, it has become part and parcel of the aesthetics, the visual expression of of the Betun's hand wound calibers, especially. Both watches, by the way, at full charge have a 6-day power reserve, which is very respectable. And this sort of spherical moon phase itself has become one of the visual signatures of the brand's design language. The watches are a little big, 44 millimeters on paper, and I think they even wear a little bigger than that. Um, so not exactly to my taste, but from a distance, I like basically everything about this brand. I would love it if they made more watches at 40 millimeters or right under 40 millimeters. I think um, that would most certainly turn De Bethune into uh, a grail for me, for sure. But for now, it's enough to dream. It's enough to learn more from a distance. And this is a lot number 3, which is a rose gold DB25L with a moon phase indicator at 12 o'clock, hand wound movement with a 6-day power reserve. The bidding stands at 39,000 Swiss francs with a little more than a week to go. We have another DB25L, this time in a white gold case. Everything else remains similar or comparable to the previous version that we have seen. I think there is something quite captivating about these sorts of luxurious watches in white metal. I know some people prefer them in precious metal, uh, in traditional shades of yellow gold or perhaps pink, but I think there's something that's more captivating, if not charismatic, about white gold or even platinum. I really do love this watch. This is a DB25L in white gold, lot number 4. Starting price is 35. Starting price was $35,000, and with little more than 7 days left on the clock, the bidding stands at 43,000 Swiss francs. Now, we have 2 more interesting De Bethune watches. I want to highlight the Titan Hawk version 2. This is DB27. We were just talking about how in the work of certain luxury brands, such as Laurent Ferrier, grade 5 titanium is really turned into this luxury material. And the Betune's titanium watches are certainly a great example of that. This is a slightly different case shape, although you can still recognize the general lines of it from those quote unquote pierced or um, hollowed out or scalloped, not however you want to call it, lugs. It's maybe a slightly more futuristic design um, from the outlines of the case to the placement of the crown to the shape of the hands and the font of the seconds track, the font of the numerals used on the seconds track, everything has a more futuristic cast to it in this particular model, the DB27 specifically, in polished grade 5 titanium. And in fact, even on the movement of the watch, they have used blued titanium bridges to fit with this larger Titan Hawk theme of the timepiece. It's really a beautiful piece. I mean, it's hard to find a fault with it. Love it or hate it, it's a very original expression. It's a very different kind of watch. I certainly have a lot of respect for De Bethune, even though most of their watches are just gigantic for me. This one is 43 millimeters. Of course, both thanks to the titanium, high grade titanium material of the case, as well as the hollowed out floating structure of the lugs. This is a watch that more or less disappears on your wrist. It's really quite light and easy to wear, even with that size. Um, very sporty, quite beautiful, if you ask me, even if it is a little bit too large for my taste. Lot 6 was a DB27, second version of the Titan Hawk by De Bethune. The bidding stands right now with 7 days left on the clock at 50,000 Swiss francs. And finally, we have lot 5, if I'm not mistaken, which is another DB25, this time a starry sky, a very special dial again in the more classical case of the De Bethune hand wound movement with the silicon escapement, white gold case with a dark blue alligator strap and matching pin buckle. In this case, I just wanted to make sure of a few things. So basically, you have a mix of materials on the dial. The dial itself is mirror polished and blued titanium. You have again a spherical moon phase at 12 o'clock. And I think the index markers, as well as the stars that create that constellation look, are insets in white gold and diamonds. I think maybe we can get a better look at this video here. That was the silicon escapement you have seen in the movement. A very beautiful and unique piece. And in this case, you have the mirror polished bridges contrasting with the silicon escapement. Mm. And again, I think very nice in its expression, in the contrast of that high polish titanium dial in blue and the white gold case. Um, and everything is tied together beautifully with that dark blue strap with slight contrast on the stitching. It's really a beautiful watch that looks every bit fancy, classic dress watch with a few interesting accents, but also has a kind of sporty side to it, both in terms of the hollowed out design of the lugs as well as the various shades of blue used throughout the design. So lot number 5 uh, was started at 50,000, but with 7 days left, the bidding currently stands at 66,000 Swiss francs. Hey, Nick, nice to see you, man. If you want to jump on, please do. The link should be there, but I'm gonna send it again. Let's see. I will. By the way, if you have been enjoying the show, please hit the like button. It makes all the difference in the world. It really makes a difference. Um, I do have a few. I do have a few. But I can't describe myself as a shopper, Bruce, to be perfectly honest with you. The few that I have gotten from the family. Um, my mom gave them to me, so I I can neither call myself sophisticated about it or a shopper, but I do have a few Persian carpets. Um, yeah, I love them. What can I say? Uh, I know again a lot of people properly uh, like more modern decorations in their living spaces these days, but I'm a vintage guy in every sense of the word, so I would rather have more traditional carpeting if possible. All right, let's see. I wanted to look look at few more auctions coming up. Maybe for a little bit, because the professor might join us. If he doesn't, I might close a little early tonight. But let's see. I'm not gonna make any rash decisions. I am actually moving this weekend, so it's a busy weekend. But I want to also, uh, just simply stay online, keep the show going, simply because I like it, I enjoy it, and I want to share new things with you. I'm also very preoccupied and busy this week, so I apologize if some of the energy is missing these last few days because I'm moving on Sunday. So that's been taking a lot of energy and also some physical work as well. So let's see. There are a few very unusual watches that are sold by Christie's online at this point in time. Um, Maybe we'll take a look at that for a little bit, because I think there are a few things in there that might interest us. Um, I'm not going to say much about these, but I want to note that lots 202 and 203 are actually quite rare and interesting watches. Jörg Heischek, as you might know, is a watch designer who would be most familiar to you probably as the designer for the original Vacheron Constantin 222. But he has had his own brand as well, and these are 2-minute repeaters that were made with his name on the dial. There are a few other unusual and less common brands: Guy Elia, Christophe Claret, Jean Dunant. Um, I don't have much to offer on those in terms of knowledge, so I am mostly passing over them in silence. But there are a few interesting pieces that I still want to show you, like this lot 220 Gégé Lecoultre Duomètre limited edition. One of 300 pieces. And in a way, it's this Duomètre chronographs are really nice in terms of both their classic appeal, but also technical aspects, because essentially this is a different approach to the chronograph. Um, let's see if they have actually a. I hope they have a picture of the movement as well. You can see here the two um, the two mainspring barrels separately. And what you have there is a monopusher chronograph that uses the pusher at 2 o'clock to start, stop, and reset. And of course, you also have the running seconds, which is the gold one matching the shade of the case, the blue one being for the chronograph. So you have here the main dial of the watch, hours and minutes. You have a 60-minute counter here for the chronograph, right? You have also an expression of minutes here through a little window. You have flashing seconds here that makes a turn each second, but makes quick 6 quick stops along the way. And you basically have two separate power reserve indicators here for the two separate mainspring barrels. It's really a beautiful watch, very innovative, nicely decorated, and in impressive movement. Very elegant watch, but in a way not very widely appreciated. Um, so kind of niche in and of itself. And this has a starting bid of $15,000. The estimate somewhere between 20 to 40 for the Duometre, a chronograph, one of 300 in yellow gold. Hey, Gandog, nice to see you, man. Thank you so much for dropping by. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you for the encouragement. I certainly, it keeps me going for sure. There's a platinum tourbillon, which is again a wonderful piece. It is also a perpetual calendar. Has an expression of the moon phase, but it is simply in the subdial here at 3 o'clock. So not very poetic, but it is there. There is in the lower half of the dial a guilloche decoration and classic hobnail, right where you have the tourbillon cage, a pointer date, and also a 4-digit expression of the year. This has a starting bid of 26,000 Swiss francs and an estimate that goes all the way up to 50,000. Beautiful movement again with that full gold skeletonized and guilloche decorated rotor as well. A very classic expression of Girard-Perregaux chronograph from the 1966 collection. I think the main quote unquote fault of this watch would simply be the fact that the movement is a little too small for the case itself, but otherwise has really beautiful lines of a classic two-register dress chronograph. But the 40 millimeter case, simply for the kind of watch that it is a little too big, but could be an interesting value proposition for those who don't mind that. This is lot 228 with a starting bid of 6,000 Swiss francs. We were talking about some world time chronographs. The JLC Polaris has a version of this, of course. That stands at 44 millimeters, if I'm not mistaken. GP's version, Girard-Perregaux's version, is also a big watch at 43. It is a 3-register chronograph with the additional date indicator at 1.5 o'clock, and of course a CD's ring that can be independently rotated with that additional crown at 9 o'clock, which gives a very balanced look to the watch. And this is one of 500 apparently in stainless steel. It started, I think, without reserve at 1 franc. Right now stands at 32,000 sorry, 3,200 Swiss francs. The estimate was somewhere between 8 to 12,000. Again, an interesting watch. Um, Combines a lot of functionality in a single case. I like the dial of the Polaris World Time chronograph a little better, a little less confusing, a little better designed. But this is a great alternative as well if you are looking for something like that. And if you are not necessarily uh, in the market with an extensive budget where you could go for a 5390G Patek Philippe World Time with a flyback chronograph, which is multiple times the price of either this Gérard Perregaux World Time chronograph or the Jaeger-LeCoultre Polaris World Time chronograph. They have one of the new Datejusts with the green dial, which uh, is already at 14,000 Swiss francs with more than 4 days to go. There's a very interesting Datejust with the tapestry dial that has aged quite remarkably. The white gold bezel itself has taken an almost grimy but certainly tropical yellowish hue, and the tapestry dial itself has this bronze like color that settled onto it. It's a very interesting Datejust, same model as mine, different dial, 16014. This is a stainless steel Datejust with a white gold fluted bezel, quote unquote tropical tapestry dial. A very nice piece, a very unique piece that currently stands at $5,000 with 4 days to go until bidding closes. You have a 6241, the Panda Daytona, so to speak, a white dial with black registers, black acrylic bezel. With a Valjoux 72 based movement with the pump pushers. A very aesthetically pleasing watch. Looks to be in very good condition as well. And there's currently a single bid at 60,000 as well. At lot, at the lot before, which is 239, there's a 116520 with caliber 4130. This is a stainless steel Rolex Daytona, of course, from the previous generation, from the generation with uh, an in-house integrated self-winding chronograph caliber for the first time. Currently, the bidding stands at 16,000, with an estimate that runs as high as 30,000 with more than 4 days to go. I think I will go for about 15 more minutes unless there are any special requests. I will just quickly refresh myself, get a little bit of water, and I'll be right back. All right, so we have about 10 more minutes to go. Um, I'll send you also the link to this auction website. So if you would like to highlight any particular one of the lots, if you would like me to take a closer look at any of them and give you a particular perspective, historically or horologically, feel free. In the meantime, I will encourage you again to follow me on Instagram. We have a giveaway coming up for one of these Seiko 5 Rowing Blazers watches. The one with the orange dial specifically is the one that I'm going to give away first. And the main condition is that you follow me on Instagram and that you um, are subscribed to me here as well. So that's very important. I'll post the guidelines soon enough, but until then, stay tuned here and follow me on Instagram. Um, I think it will be pretty straightforward, but I'll have to restrict it, unfortunately, to US addresses. You don't have to be a US resident necessarily, but if you end up being the lucky winner, which will be decided by a random number generator, uh, I can only ship it to a US address because otherwise it will be a very expensive endeavor for me. So thank you for understanding. But I'm figuring these things out as I go. In the meantime, follow me on Instagram and stay subscribed on YouTube. The guidelines will be announced soon enough, first on Instagram and then on YouTube. If you would like to support the channel, of course, the super chats have been available now for a while. Feel free to send in any of your questions or requests with a super chat to highlight it. But of course, I also have a Cash App, which is $LHVVV, $LHVVV. You can always reach me at Lord Hellespont V at gmail.com. That's Lord Hellespont V at gmail.com. That's always connected. That's also connected to my PayPal account. So if you want me to dedicate a live stream to you, to your collection, or if you want me to prepare a video that focuses on your selection of content, whether that is the particular history of a model or um, a narrative about a brand, I would be more than happy to do it for you. If you subscribe to me on Patreon, on the link provided there, you will not only be supporting the quality and quantity of content on this channel in a committed manner, but you'll also get every single day at least 3 links to watch deals online. I curate these specifically based on the tastes of my patrons on Patreon right now. You'll have a direct line of communication with me, so you can always direct me from there and also start conversation about particular pieces and the kinds of models that I share with you there on a daily basis. You'll get almost 100 links for in a month for $10 at the initiate level. I think that's a very good deal. I don't think it will stay there forever. I will provide, of course, increasingly more content to my subscribers, to my uh, patrons on Patreon. So get in there at the ground level as soon as you can, while you can. Um, and if you want me to help you with your next acquisition, if you want my help in curating your watch collection more holistically, whether you want to start from scratch or you want to see how you can go forward or reorganize what you already have. I'm always available for consulting as well. So feel free to send me an email at lordhellespontv@gmail.com. All of this information is provided in the video description and also is available in the crawling ticker below. And the links are, of course, in the chat already. So I will highlight a few more watches before I close tonight in about 5 minutes. I just want to see again. These are two Kermits. One is, of course, already in a way achieving a higher price because these Submariners were introduced for the 50th anniversary of the model in 2003. 2023 is coming. I wonder what they have in store for us. But without getting distracted, this is 166110. Rolex introduced in 2003 for the 50th anniversary of the model a special Submariner that's from the shade of green on the bezel of the watch. After that particular green is called the Kermit these days. This is one they call a flat 4, an early example, an actual 50th anniversary piece. So from year 2003, provided here as a full set box and papers, and even with that fancy little anchor that you can use as a fob chain or something. That is very cute. I've always liked that. The estimate is somewhere between 26,000 to 35,000, and there's already a starting bid placed on lot 246 with 4 days to go. There's another 50th anniversary piece with the sticker on the case back intact. Another full set, but a much later example, apparently from 2006. And that has an estimate of 15 to 30,000 Swiss francs. There is a bid placed on it right now at 15,000, and the auction is gonna close in 4 days. That was 247, lot number 247. And finally, we also have 5-digit Explorer 2. This is before the Explorer 2 was enlarged onto its current 42 millimeter case size. This is a watch that I also personally have, an Explorer 2 Polar Dial 16570 with the fixed stainless steel sunray brushed bezel with the extra 24-hour hand that you can set independently as well. So it serves as a GMT hand too, to indicate time in 2 different time zones. And I think it's a beautiful watch. It's one of the, to my taste, one of the last best watches that Rolex produced. In this case, you have an example with the so-called Swiss-only dial with the Luminova indexes. Um, should be from right around 1999, as you can see, 1999, 2000. Um, there are already a number of bids for a watch estimated between $5,000 to $10,000. With 4 days to close, I think this will go for relatively higher than the current 6,000 bid placed upon it. That is lot 250, a Rolex Explorer 2 with the polar dial, reference 16570, all Swiss only, from 1999. That was lot number 250. Okay, well, I'm gonna close a little early tonight with your permission. Thank you again for being with me tonight. Thank you for your presence and support. Please hit the like button on the way out. It really helps. Um, if you have not subscribed yet, please do so. I am here every day, at least for 2 hours, if not much longer. And I'm here for Pure Watch Talk. We talk about new releases, we talk about auction results, we do auction previews, we look at the trends on the market, we talk a lot about the different kinds of knowledge and experience and expertise that goes into collecting watches, especially vintage watches, but really all. This is the kind of platform where you have everything from A to Z, all the brands from Audemars Piguet to Zenith, everything from um, Citizens and Seikos that you can get for a couple of $100 to really masterful, exceptional, uh, high horological pieces that cost an arm and a leg and $250,000 on top. Um, so help me sustain this platform. Give me at least a like and a subscription. Help me expand this community. There are other ways to support me, of course, and that information is in the crawling ticker. It is included in the video description. You can always leave your comments with a super thanks or super chat during the live streams. And the PayPal and Cash App is there too. On Patreon, I have certain incentives for you, so go ahead and check that out as well. I'm going to see you tomorrow, I hope. I look forward to it already. Let me rest a little bit and refresh, and I'll be with you at 8 p.m. Pacific uh, Standard Time tomorrow as well. Take care, everyone. Much love. Adieu.